Morning Ramblins. Make the words fear porn great again. Apparently, we have a problem with aggressively making people afraid of everything. Or worse, pushing the idea that certain things are something to trigger you into being opposed to them. This is the nature of every new technology that has ever come about in the history of mankind. Put it this way, when the machine gun came out first, who was the most opposed to it? Was it the people who did all the budgeting? Was it the people who did the voting? Or was it the soldiers who did not think, the top brass of the soldiers in the military who did the actual, gaining of the logistics and whatnot, getting the materials, getting the guns and this, that, and the others? Were they the ones who were against it? And when you think about it, you go, wait a minute. Why were the old hats against it? Well, it's very simple. It was a new technology at the time, being unproven and therefore unreliable. It wasn't necessarily something that they wanted to put their faith in. This is the bane of all new technologies. Put it this way. People have been smoking cigarettes since the Civil War. But it wasn't a big thing. Since the Civil War, the so-called war between the states, or war of northern aggression, take your pick. Any Hoosiers. The thereabouts, the Civil War era, people, started smoking cigarettes more. But it didn't really catch on until World War I. In World War I, people needed a way to get their nicotine fix. And you couldn't always just pull out a snooze box and throw a snooze up your nose. That's actually what snooze used to be done with. You'd take snooze was snuff at the same time. They were the same thing. It was finely ground powder. And you would take just a small amount on the tip of your nail and take it up to snooter. Well, that's the difference between a dip. Dip was from the barrels that had been sitting in the seawater and whatnot, and the tobacco had gotten nasty and wasn't smokable. They dip that out. There's your slop of dip. You'd stuff that into a pouch or whatever and chew on that. But these are your differences here between tobacco types and whatnot. Normally, smoking cigarettes and cigars was for rich people back in the day. Well, right around World War I, this is the other thing that became really well accepted technology. People didn't do it as much before then. They did, but they didn't do it as much. World War I, this became accepted because you were running and gunning. You didn't have time to sit down, pop a snooter in. You didn't have time to sit down and, throw in a chaw. Have the ability to sit there and, through the process, you pull out a cigarette, throw it in your lip, light a match, go. And the whole idea was, this way, it's something less to think about. All right? So, and you didn't have roller groans at the time. They would actually roll them up, package them, and send them out, rather than be roller groans, because rolling your own in the fucking trenches was not happening. The whole thing was so that you could be ready, throw in a cigarette, and go over the top. Have your last cigarette and go over the top, basically. There's enough there. Anyways, that was a very accepted technology by that point. They were both kind of relatively close in their invention. The machine gun and the cigarette, relatively close. You got the potato picker, and then you got the Maxim gun. Both of those guns were right around the same time as, cigarettes became a little bit more seen in public, but not so much. You had more of the cigar or the chew plug, especially in America. So, Blaine, how does this all relate back to AI? Well, I'm about to blow your minds. AI is a new technology. All new technologies have hiccups, especially once they start getting really heavily used. Anybody knows anything about the history of the machine gun? First heavy uses in World War I. They were used before then, but they weren't heavily used before then. Once in the trenches in World War I, people started to figure out, this is why all these moving parts is not always a great thing, and super clean, and you got to do this, that, and the others, and you got to be perfect about it, and you got to be ready with it. Barrels overheat, things go wrong. Backups for your backups for your backups, Lessons learned. Literally written in blood. That's why I'm saying, nowadays with AI, it's going to be the same way. It's a new technology. All new technologies always are written in blood. This is why I say you need to have some logic and sense about you. AI is going to sometimes give you wrong answers. Duh. With all the cynical asshats and sarcastic assholes on the internet, something that is way more autistic than me is going to look at that and go, oh, they're being serious. Oh, that's good information. That's actually usable information. Rather than, that's a bad idea. Because that could actually cause other problems. Even though it's a non-toxic, so-called, it still can cause other problems. Like, for instance, eating rocks was a sarcastic... It was sarcasm and satire, but AI used it and said, yeah, you should eat about a rock a day. It was like, what? That's interesting. Putting glue in pizza dough formula. Like, we did that in order to make candlestick holders when I was a kid. And the first thing that the teacher told you was, don't eat this. I don't care if it's non-toxic. Don't eat this. We were using white glue and flour and a few other things in order to make what basically amounts to faux bone, or what's called bread bone. I mean, I've made it before and showed you a piece here on the Guardsman Home channel when I was making my knives and whatnot. I'm just saying. Same stuff. That's what it turns into inside you. You don't want to do that. Don't eat that stuff. Okay? I mean, normally this wouldn't be a rocket science sort of thing, but apparently it kind of bears repeating, especially since AI is going to tell people, hey, yeah, you should put freaking white glue in your pizza dough. Look, I understand that some of y'all's elevated on a whole different another level. Had some of that Grinch finger and just went to space. I'm just gonna say it like this. Do not eat glue. Okay? You were right to sit there and make fun of the kid in class who was eating paste. That ain't good for you. Really, that ain't good for you. Just because it ain't bad for you, ain't gonna harm you, no, I take that back. Just because it's non-toxic doesn't mean it can't hurt you. Okay? I'll put it this way. This sword steel is non-toxic. Does that mean I'm going to eat it? I want you to think about that real hard and long. Razor blade sharp. It's non-toxic. I could eat it. It'd hurt coming out the other end. My body's not going to digest it. Not very much. It's just going to make it more sharp and rusty. So, yeah, don't eat steel. Duh. I mean, this shouldn't be rocket science. I really don't understand why it takes so... It's so triggering for somebody to sit there and go, oh, they used AI, instead of going, oh, they used AI. That means that they had to do a lot of work on it, otherwise it's garbage. If they used AI and it's garbage, yeah, I'm all for you. Just those are low IQ individuals. It's not the AI's fault or problem. It's the low IQ individual who's just taking it and doing low effort crap instead of going and doing the effort above. AI is a useful tool if you use it correctly. Anybody who's actually read the book that I've been writing recently will realize, hey, a little bit of AI ain't bad. It can help in certain instances. Just throwing it in its rendered form out there is no. You've got to do some things to make it work. More and more so the longer we go on with the same BS of, the AI keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. And is going to. That's how this works, because they're using the same algorithm over and over and over and over again instead of generating a new algorithm based on the best attributes. They're taking whatever's whatever, and whatever is easily regurgitated, and most regurgitated, because most translates to higher statistical. This is why I said statistics are garbage. Especially depending on who generates it, it's garbage. Either it's politically motivated, or it's got so many holes in it because of wrong information. Not just politically motivated information, but wrong information. This is actually why anecdote is a very useful tool. Not just anecdote, but experience. You should get some life experience. This will be able to give you that ability to use AI appropriately and usefully, and maybe, I don't know, fix the problem. Instead of it generating garbage, it might generate something that you can use. Imagine that. You know, not everybody is as eloquent as I am. A lot of people are more creative than I am. Let that blow your mind for a second. I have a wondrous vocabulary. I can sit there and relate to prose upon the side of the mountain, as you know. But at the same time, it's really difficult for me to imagine another world, another reality other than this one, where we exist. So I use a little AI to get the creative juices flowing. That doesn't mean I just take and copy pasta, this, that, and the others, and then leave it that way. Little bit of an effort actually makes for a good piece. And this is why, as I said, you know, sitting there and saying, oh, well, AI is the garbage. If you are a low IQ individual, AI will not be helpful in any way. It will be harmful because you're getting improper information because you do not know how to research. There's a reason why it's called research. Search again. I don't know why this is so difficult to contemplate and understand. I had this pounded into my head as a kid. The reason why it's called research is because you're looking at information that has already been presented, already been recorded. You're looking at this recording, and then you're looking at other recordings and crossing between the two of them, referencing both of them to understand what's real and what's not, and then experimenting in your own time to see which one might be correct. You can know a fuck ton, or you can know very little. You can have all the information in the world in either situation. So it's up to you to use it right and not just be sitting there going and getting freaked out and all this outrage and BS and that and the other. A little bit of maturity, just a tiny little bit of maturity, and the ability to understand why, how, and to what end. And also, what? These things are important. Not just, you know, giving away your decisions to everything that's out there. Don't do that. I'm saying, if you're uncertain about something and you ask AI about it, remember to go back then and use other ways to research that same topic, that same idea, that same thought, that same question. And then verify it, whether by experimentation or observation, or both. I mean, think about it. When you do an experiment, you're observing. So, this is why I think it's important that we use AI, we build AI, and we do it correctly. This is why I don't think AI has any place on Reddit, because there's too many sarcastic asses on Reddit. There's too many people who are maliciously spreading wrong information, confidently so, because they understand human psychology and how to get inside your mind and make you think something that's not true. And then there are the bots and the AIs that have been taught this crap by these particular people. And because they just take in information, spit it back out, and then regurgitate, and they don't differentiate between a bot and a human when they're speaking, when they're learning. Pretty soon, the bot traffic compounds faster than the human traffic can. This is why a good education is important. Because you can learn all of these things that AI and Google is going to get wrong, so that you can sit there and say, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Or you can go, okay, well, that's what AI says, so now I'm going to go and I'm going to look in this reference, or I'm going to go to this library and I'm going to go check this out in an encyclopedia, or I'm going to go and check this out in this other reference book or whatever. Okay, there's reference guides out there. It's paper books anywhere you want to go to check it out. There's Barnes and Noble, there's Borders, I think still. I would hope there's still Borders bookstores. Even though they did get half-assed bought out by Barnes and Noble. A lot of their locations got cut down because of it's the whole corporate espionage and skullduggery and bullshit, and I hate it. But anyways, that's beside the point. My point is that sitting there and discarding things like AI just out of hand is going to be more destructive than helpful. Let me explain that. When you stop making improvements upon a particular device, that device stays stagnant in that particular configuration. Case in point, what are the advancements that have been made in small arms technology from the time of the Maxim gun to the time of now? For all of those who are, gun-toting Americans here, I know many of you hate AI because you're like, oh, AI's not free. I'm about to break your and make you kind of tarted about it. I'm about to make you think here. If it wasn't for all those improvements on the machine gun, we wouldn't have come to select fire. We wouldn't have come to such things as, interchangeable box magazine, we wouldn't have come to the idea of electrically powered rotary cannon. I mean, come on, man. This should be tickling all the right parts of your brain, because it's like, wait, invention, the mother of invention is necessity, and the father of invention is innovation. So if I take innovation and necessity and I put them together, I make a better invention. Or I can improve an invention. For those of you who aren't gun owners, we'll talk about the car. Because everybody understands the car, right? You know that the first cars, so-called, were called preambulators. And you didn't drive, you preambulated. And they weren't powered by gasoline very often, or diesel. They were powered by steam. So, without advancements, you wouldn't be able to do 70 miles an hour down the road on the freeway. You'd be doing 5 miles an hour. Welcome to technology and advancement and innovation. This is why I keep on saying, it's like, don't discard it out of hand. Don't be sitting there going, oh, I thought, but no. Improve. Do better. This is why I keep on getting on this level. It's like, if you're going to throw away a technology because you cannot understand or comprehend it, you will be consumed by whoever it is that is the civilization that can conceptualize, comprehend, and utilize that technology. It's just that simple. And I'll put it to you as simple as honest. If you can't utilize technology, well, you ain't much of a human for that matter. I mean, my dog can use technology. He uses a ball all the time to annoy the shit out of me. He's doing it right now. Get that out of here. I don't want it. Anyway, like I said, technology, the things that we enjoy nowadays that you don't really think about. That spray can of Pam you use to cook your fucking veggie bowls on. How disgusting and how terrible for your body. But anyways, I digress. Same difference. Without technological improvements, technology stagnates. I will put it this way. You know what the original ones of these were? I have one, and I will be right back with you as soon as I have it in hand. Oh, wait, there it is. Never mind. Don't even need to pause the video. The original conceptualization of these is this. This is a scissors. And funny enough, it cuts in the same way, pretty much, that a pair of scissors does, but crossed with a knife. Now, what does that mean? Well, I'll put it to you this ways. Put this down for a second so I can get together some substrate. What's that? Just to get some substrate for you. Because it's... Okay. So, right? One-handed operation of the tool. Or two-handed operation of the tool, anyways. Okay? It's basically, again, one-handed operation of the tool. Now you'll notice something about how this thing cuts. I'm wiggling it like this. Okay? I want to show you something. It's a pretty straight cut there. On par with that straight of a cut. It just takes longer. This is the original conceptualization of scissors. This is the new and improved technology of scissors. It's the same cutting power, same cutting idea. Is that one hand does the work. The other hand is there to hold if necessary. Same with a knife. Okay, it's just that a knife is a different direction of cut. Scissors is forward. It's a forward cut with your hand, like a stab. You see what I mean? Scissors is a forward cut. A knife, by comparison, doesn't cut like this. It's not made to cut like this. It's made to poke like this. A knife is made to cut like this with a dragging motion. You see the difference here? So that's your difference between a scissors and a knife. It is not the actual physical form of the cutting tool so much as the direction of cut. Technology needs to advance to stay relevant. If you do not advance the AI, then it's easy to hate. It's easy to make irrelevant because you never used it. You never actually used it. It'd be the same as walking around with one of these and saying, I can go up against aircraft. No, you can't. That's a black powder gun. You can't go up against aircraft with that. You can go up against aircraft with this. But not that. This is the whole point of what I'm pointing out to you. Each tool has its place. AI has its place. It is as a helpful thought pushing tool. It is not the be all and end all, and you need to stop believing that crap. There is still effort that has to be put in, whether it's AI generated video or it's AI generated writings, which I wouldn't even call it that. It's kind of like it's something that you look at, you read, and then that gives you kind of a something to have your brain go off and go, oh, well, no, I'm going to, but it's but it's got my juice. I'm going to do this way then. It's not so that you can just take and copy paste. That shit doesn't work. And it's proven over and over and over and over and over again. There is nothing new under the sun. This is why all the good stories tend to seem to reflect older stories. Even Tolkien himself wrote stories built off of older stories. This is how that works. Duh. But it's one of those, you create little tiny pieces here and there. To get the juices flowing, you need to have a starting point. That's the whole concept of that. And that's why it bothers the shit out of me when people say, oh, it's AI, it's all AI slop, even if it's one word. Read. I'm like, lose your bias for a second and figure it out. It's not hard. In fact, if it's too difficult for you to figure out, then maybe you shouldn't be on the internet. Because you're going to teach AI that same improper thought process. Like, what it says doesn't matter to human beings anyways. So it doesn't matter if it just says things that aren't true, can't be verified, or are outright wrong. Because the human being's not going to care anyways. That's not the case. Human beings, obviously, we pay attention to this shit. Because otherwise, I wouldn't know about this. Back in 2024, mind you, it's giving out these answers of you should go eat rocks, or you should put glue in your fucking pizza dough, or, just some things that are dangerous, unhealthy, unwise, make no sense. It's AI. And yet, people did it thinking, oh, well, AI can't be wrong. Hello? Why does AI slop piss you off? Why? Why does it piss you off? Because you're sitting there listening to a story that sounds like it's written by a human being that's written really well, and then all of a sudden something fucking goes sideways. Isn't that right? I mean, I know that's what it does to me. I know that's why I have a problem with actual AI slop versus AI aided. Human written, AI aided books. These are actually, that's what I do. And I've read the difference. AI slop, it hurts to listen to. Because it's just not right. And then I've read some new so-called books, written by some folks. And I could tell some of those pieces of those books were written by Gemini. Or ChatGPT, for that matter. But they'd gone back and they'd done some editing and they'd done some work in there. So it had the feeling, but it wasn't quite there. It was actually a pretty good book after I started getting into it. But it was that same edge that you normally get when you read one of the older, it's been written only by a human being, Okay, like on a typewriter, for instance. And these books have that same first couple of chapters. You're sitting there going, huh, okay. And then after a couple chapters, you're like, wow, this is a good book. This is a good story. Doesn't matter if it's not real, it's a good story. So it's this whole situation of using AI is actually harder, I would argue, than being able to use your natural creative brain. Because you can create some things that are way out there. It's just that for me, I need someone to bounce those ideas off of. I can't just do it on my own. Mostly because of, if you look at, I'm looking at the camera right now, you can see that one's over there, this one's straight ahead, So it looks like I'm looking at whatever's over there, and then so don't feel bad. All right, this is not your fault. This is the damage done to my brain on full fucking display, because for some reason my eye's doing that today. But anyways, as I was saying, the AI helps me to create things that I hadn't thought about before, or that were still within the possibilities of the realm of canon, but I just had discarded it for no reason. A particular avenue to take with how the story plays out, or the question of where do we go next, just to keep it going, keep writing. Some of those things are massively important, and if it wasn't for the fact that Gemini does that, you guys wouldn't even have the book Everspark, the series Everspark. Wouldn't have the ending of Sky Knight, like the ending couple of books. You wouldn't have that, just because I'd fucking given up. I was like, fuck it. Why bother? My brain, I can't think of how to end this story. I can't think of how to do this. I can't think of how to. And so, with a little bit of help back and forth, just arguing with AI, I was able to do it. This is the way it's supposed to be used, versus what we're seeing the most of, which is AI and then an AI agent. AI makes the, whatever that would normally be taken by a human being and then corrected and fixed up and made pretty, polished, made better, taken in a different direction maybe. And then that AI agent, which we call bots, would go and take that, just copy paste, and that's the story. That AI agent then, once they've done that copy paste, this, that, and the others, here's your story. And so the human goes, oh, well, that's great, bang, put it up there. And the AI agent puts it up there. They don't even do any correction, any proofreading, any nothing, just put it out there for content. Because the AI agent still kind of needs to have that, go ahead and do. But up until that point, the AI agent doesn't need any, go ahead. It's just that last portion and the initial, I want you to do this for me. So this is why it's important to have that human, that person there that does the work. Doesn't just sit there and go, oh, I'm just gonna throw it out there. It's not how it works. You can't use AI like that. It will make a terrible story out of a great beginning. Because AI can't write series. This is why I don't go over to 2-sentence horror anymore. Because it's the easiest thing to infiltrate for AI bots. The easiest thing. Why? Because a human being can turn around from an LLM with a 2-sentence horror and just copy paste. And it's like, all right. You can read that shit right off the bat. And even in that, sometimes there's indicators. Certain catchwords, phrases, and whatnot. Like, when you're talking horror or fantasy, you try to stay away from the word frequency. Imagine that. The word frequency is actually something that is not mentioned all throughout the fucking Lord of the Rings. Not mentioned. The entire book. That word is not in there. Repetitive machinations. Or repetitive machination. Repetitive machination. Tolkien used the definition rather than the word. Food for thought. A lot of AI books that are out there that aren't slop, but are, somebody went there, did the extra work. Every now and then you'll get one of those catchwords in there, those catchphrases. It just instantaneously lets you know, hey, wait a minute. It's fucking AI written. Like, some of this is AI. Now, if the storyline is compelling and the continuity is good and the grammar is good and the effort is obviously there, then that's no longer so much of an issue, but it's still there in the back of your mind. Now, sci-fi, you're going to see that a little bit more. Science fiction, fantasies, you're going to see the word frequency a little bit more, but it's a right and proper place. Not so much as a descriptor, but as a bit of speech between two characters, per se. Because it's in the common lexicon of our day, or of a future civilization. But previous civilizations didn't talk like that. And you'll notice how I get into this, because there's a point. When you're writing about a turning point in a civilization, the hardest thing to do is to take and mash together new speech and old speech. Like thous and theys and thus and these and sithee and more and common and lay, but not in the way that you would think that they were used, right? Or grating, or perturbation, or sophostrophe. That's actually a word. These kinds of things are not common in the lexicon now, but right at the turning point between old ways of thinking and new technology, new technological advancement of civilization, right around the time of the Renaissance, for instance. This is when those types of ways of speaking would have been changing. The lexicon changes at those times. And you'll notice this throughout civilization changing. Whenever a civilization changes, the lexicon changes. But what's the lexicon? That is what is the commonly used manner of speech of the time. So the way that we would speak, you know, I mean, I try to use more proper English a little bit more so, but say for instance, the proper lexicon for a sailor is to cuss like, you know, cuss like it's going out of style because it's just how you do. Proper lexicon for down south, uh, depending on the area, because the lexicon flows with the dialect. A man might talk about somebody's riz at the same breath as he's talking about their grandma's back, you know, back porch and back porch setting. We was out there on the back porch setting, and we was having ourselves a bit of a talk, and this girl came up. She was real fine, nice. I says, I'm gonna throw the riz on her. That is our common lexicon today, but at the same time, using a little bit of that southern and that dialect and that dragging from way back and coming in. This back porch setting has been around since the 1900s. We've talked back porch setting as an actual, this is a pastime of what we're doing. Back porch setting is a thing where you're sitting there with your friends or your family, and you know, you're looking out in the backyard and your kids are playing out in the grass or whatever, having fun, and you know, you're just relaxing, taking it all in. That's back porch setting. You know, small community, immediate family, close friends, perhaps neighbors. That's what I'm talking about, you know, back porch setting. And then you got your front porch setting. That's hanging out with all your neighbors. The old potluck. And farmer's market. That's front porch setting. Okay, that is the same thing. So to understand the lexicon, all you got to do is understand the setting. See what I did there? This is why when you're talking things like high fantasy or turn of technology high fantasy, for instance, you know, steampunk, that's one of them, okay? Turn of technology high fantasies, the lexicon is changing. So there's this little bit of slightly more modern slang, and then there's this old, proper way of speaking. And to try and get an AI to write that, take it from somebody who's tried. You ain't getting it. Either the AI is going to write the new way, or it's going to write in the old way, or it's going to freaking get its wires crossed and go and start writing in the old way in its prompts to you, whereas you are going to be writing in the new way to it in your prompts. It's like, it just blows the mind, man. And the AI goes and scraps out and can't continue to keep up. So this is why it's like there's a certain pattern to utilizing it appropriately. You're not going to get good quality unless you pay attention to that pattern. And this is why you see so much AI slop out there. That's actual slop. And I'm not talking like what I do, which is use a little bit of AI here and there to try and fix things up. I mean, I've got some videos that I was going to do, but AI can't keep up, so we didn't do those videos. Go figure. I think I deleted them already, honest. But I've got these books that I wrote, and then I've got other writings. Some of them have AI parts in them. Some of them don't. All of them are technology. All of them. The written word is technology. So how are you going to sit there and degrade one technology simply because it is a couple thousand years newer or possibly older? You don't know. Then written language. It's funny how I said that, but you might, those of you in the know who know all of this shit, AI might not just be a modern machination of human beings, if you get what I'm saying. So, let's not cut down AI so quick before we actually know what we're dealing with. I'm sure, yes, there's always the threat of Skynet. There's always the threat of, whatchamacallit, iRobot. Okay? There's always that threat. There's also always the possibility of Adam, the robot in iRobot that saved the day, quite literally. There's always the T101 or the T800 sent back in time to save John Connor's life. There's always that possibility. If we cut ourselves off at the knees just because we want to sit there and be high and mighty and self-righteous, that possibility dwindles and is left to those who are less willing to be righteous. It's a personal moral dilemma you're going to have to live with. Do you want to be part of the problem or part of the solution? Anyways, y'all, have a wonderful day. This has been Yo Guardsman. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk in the here in the Power Hour. And I'll see y'all later. I am out.